This swim bait has caught me fish when nothing else would, and today I'm breaking down exactly how I fish it, when it works best, and the biggest mistake I see people make with it. What's going on? Welcome back to the channel. If you're new here, I'm Dane. I spend a lot of time kayak fishing. I spend a lot of time kayak fishing pressured waters, and swim baits are one of my favorite ways to target bass. Not only because they're a lot of fun and it's extra rewarding whenever you catch a fish on them, but it's also because they're super effective, especially whenever you do tricks like this. This one I'm going over today has been something that I've used for as long as I've swim bait fished, and I absolutely love them. This here is a Megabass Magdraft Freestyle. It's one of the most effective swim baits that you can use in the colder water because it's got this really deadly head roll in addition to that tail kick. And this thing just picks up bites whenever a lot of other ones won't. I get the Magdraft Freestyles, the 6-inch. You can do an 8 or a 10-inch or whatever size you please, and then you can gut them. There's plenty of other videos on YouTube that'll tell you how to do that, but I just buy the Magdraft Freestyles. They only come in that 6-inch version, but I buy these guys. With that, I get a pack of Owner Beast Hooks, and I get them in the 6/0 and the 1/4 ounce. They make a bunch of different great colors. They've got like this kind of shad one. They make some that are like a grayback shad. They make all kinds of different colors. My absolute favorite is this one here. They call this MB Gizzard. Here in these Missouri waters, this one just picks up bites like no others. It normally has eyes, but this one's been beat up pretty good. You can see that rash on the top from their teeth. So this one is by far my favorite, but all them colors work. You know, it depends more on the action than the color, in my opinion. This bait really shines because it does imitate those big gizzard shad really well with those extra colors. Because I do primarily fish this bait in the cold, I think the pink and green just moving really slow down there really catch their attention and make them have to eat it. The biggest question that I get on this bait is when to throw it. And that's honestly where a lot of people mess it up. A lot of people only want to throw a big swim bait like this or a bigger than average bait whenever the bite's really good and they want to go target a little bit better class fish. That is a good time to do it, but my personal favorite time to fish this particular swim bait is right whenever the water is starting to warm. You know, you're getting into March, even just in the beginning of April, the first couple weeks of April, end of March. That time that we're kind of coming out of winter and into spring is my favorite time to throw a swim bait like this. It can work all year, but that's just whenever it really shines for me and the waters that I have here. You can throw these things in any clarity of water. It doesn't really matter too much. Whenever you have a big bait like this that causes this much displacement and kicks like that, they're going to be able to track it down in some dirty water without too much trouble. One really cool thing about swim baits like this, and this one in particular, is that they don't really require like a certain amount of pressure on a lake to really shine. Something like this just works from farm ponds all the way up to Lake of the Ozarks, you know, where they have, I can't even throw out a number, but they just have a ridiculous number of boats there every day fishing. Something like this is going to work at both of those places just as well. Now, location for throwing this matters just as much as the bait itself. I'm going to talk about my favorite time to throw it here towards the end of March, beginning of April, like I said before, just as that water is starting to hit, you know, probably 48 to low 50s. Somewhere in there is whenever this bait really starts to shine. I like to throw it anywhere where the sun is shining and the cover or whatever is holding some heat. So if you've got the black floats on docks, I'll throw them next to them. If you've got some trees, you know, standing timber in the water that's going to hold some heat from the sun, throw it next to them. If you've got like a riprap dam, throw it next to that. And you can kind of toss this thing anywhere from like 4 foot, 5 foot. I mean, you could throw it even shallower than that, but it's going to shine kind of in that 4 foot all the way to say 10 or 12, you could probably throw it on just as easily. The areas that I specifically target near me, I'm normally in like 6 to 8 foot. If you do have forward-facing sonar, you can go offshore a little bit and find those fish and go target the bass that are chasing around those bait balls around that time of the year. That can be super effective. If you're doing that, you can go ahead and get a regular Magdraft that has the that hook harness, and you'll actually hook up more because whenever those fish do hit it or swipe at it or whatever, you've got that treble hook to get them. You don't have to have them inhaling the bait to be able to hook them. But if you're like me and you don't have forward-facing sonar or any kind of a live sonar, and you're not able to go and pick out those bait balls as easily, then I like to go with the Freestyle with that beast hook, so that way you can drag it on the bottom a little bit slower and pick up those fish that are eating a little bit shallower. Now, the retrieve style of this bait. This is the most important. This is where you can either unlock it or completely ruin this. I like to either do like a spinnerbait cadence, like a slow, steady retrieve. You know, that's whenever I'm fishing around treetops or those black floats or anything where you're fishing at a little bit higher in the water column. You're not right on the bottom. Weed lines, if you've still got weed lines, or if you're chasing those bait balls, just a slow and steady retrieve. You can mess around with some burning and pausing, but for the most part, just a slow, steady retrieve for this bait works the best. I'd highly recommend, if you do get one, toss it out, swim it next to your boat, and just watch it. Whenever you see that head roll doing this, that's whenever you know you've got it right. Whenever that head roll's going, there's not a bait that'll outcompete this. But if it's really easy to burn out and it's really easy to go too slow to where it isn't rolling the way it needs to. If you're fishing like a riprap bank or a dam or something like that, which is the primary way that I fish these baits, you really want to go along the bottom as slow as you can handle it. I mean, you're going just a quarter turn faster than you would with, say, a Huddleston. A Huddleston, you really do just let it sit. You almost dead stick it and barely crawl it. With this guy, you're going to give it just a little bit faster, but about as slow as you can do it while maintaining a head roll and bottom contact. It's kind of tricky to get the speed right on these things, but whenever you've got it right, like I said before, there's not a bait out there that will outcompete them. Most of the bites that I get on these is whenever I've got it, you know, this weight there bumping along the bottom, and it's just head rolling down there, tail kicking, and I bring it up over a rock on like a riprap bank or a dam, and as it starts to fall down the backside of that riprap is whenever I get a lot of my bites. Now, whenever you feel them eat this thing, a lot of the time, what you're going to feel is them completely swallow it and then clamp down on the line in front of it. So it's going to feel like a tiny little tick, but whenever you feel it, you'll know that versus like just bumping off a rock or whatever. If you feel something but you're not confident that it was a bite, you think it might have been a rock, but it could be a bite, an easy way to tell is to reel down, you know, just 2 cranks on that reel real fast, and that'll, you know, pull your line tight, and then if it's still holding tension, then swing for the fences. If it's not, then you know that you just bumped over a rock and got too excited. The best part about this bait, in my opinion, is that it doesn't take any like special gear to throw it. You can throw it on, you know, a 7.6 heavy, like a small swim bait rod, or you can throw it all the way down to like a regular jig rod or whatnot. For example, this guy right here is a 7-foot medium heavy that my buddy snagged out of Table Rock Lake, and this was my Magdraft specific rod for quite a while actually. I figured I would blow it up, you know, being that it was dug out of the bottom of a lake, you know, first hook set, but I never ended up breaking it. It's still in one piece. It would still be a decent Magdraft rod, you know, as long as you're only throwing the 6-inch version. This is just fine. This guy all the way up to like a small swim bait specific rod. Like I said, that's kind of the beauty of this, is that it doesn't take any specific gear. You can pretty much just fish what you've got. Any kind of a jig rod should work for them. Now onto the reels. A lot of guys, for this style of swim bait fishing, really seem to prefer like a big round reel with a super low gear ratio, something from like 5.0 to 6.4 or something like that. And that's great because a lot of the time you are barely creeping it along. Those can help you slow down if you have trouble with that, and that's fine and dandy. A lot of guys like a big reel because your hook sets are hard and it can be hard on your gears. I personally use a Curado MGL XG. That XG is an 8.1 to 1 gear ratio, so it is quite fast for something like this, which I like to have that speed for that reel check to make sure that they're there, as well as whenever I'm actually fighting the fish. I like to have the little bit of extra speed to try to catch up with them if they're running towards me or whatever. That being said, I am barely creeping it along because the inches per turn are like over 30 every time you turn that handle. reels it in like over 30 inches. So you really have to make yourself slow down and really work that thing back to you. But if you can force yourself to slow down, I do like a faster reel. I've heard some bad things about the MGLs having like smaller teeth on the gears and people stripping them out, but I have not had that experience yet. And I've been throwing these guys on my Curados for probably 3-4 years now, and I've caught a lot of fish on them. I've caught a lot of big fish on them, and the hook sets are so explosive that I would have stripped them out by now, I believe. Now onto the line that I like to throw these guys on. I like braid to leader on these. They're not so heavy to where you have to really, really worry about that leader not coming apart. You get much bigger than this, and I don't throw any leaders at all. I just don't trust it. But these guys, I still trust a leader. I like 40-pound Power Pro. That Suffix 832 is pretty good as well. And then to whatever your fluoro leader is, I like the Braze X because a lot of times I am scrubbing rocks with this guy, and I feel like that a Braze X just holds up a little bit better. But that fluoro leader is normally about 20-pound test, and I do about 6 foot of that. One more thing that's extremely important about this is if you are fishing the one that's got that hook harness, you can kind of just sweep into them and hold them tight. If you are fishing the beast hook version, that guy there, that's a big, hefty, stout hook. And you got to force it up through that plastic, especially if you have it like tucked in there. Like, what do they call it? Texposed. Whenever you go to set the hook, you have got to collapse that bait and drive that big meaty hook right through their head. So the hook sets on these things have got to be very, very powerful. The way I like to do it is reel till I'm sure that they're there. I reel till it's just about tight, and then with my rod pointed at them, and then swing about as hard as I can. I don't normally have my drag locked down, so that way I don't explode rods, but I'll have it pretty tight, similar to how you do your jigs or your frogs, or somewhere in between those two. If you don't do that, if you don't swing hard and you don't really get that hook into them, you're going to lose a lot of fish. Just because, with that big of a hook, it really takes some force to get it driven through. There's a lot of baits out there that'll do this exact technique, and some of them very, very well. I got on a really good bite a few years ago doing exactly this that I'm talking about, and I had some buddies show up, and all they had was coal shads, and they went and they did the same thing. They had a lot of trouble keeping it out of the rocks, but throwing them coal shads, and they were catching quite a few fish as well. I do believe that this is the best, but there's plenty of other options. A really popular one for this technique is like a Huddleston. I know that that's like kind of what this is meant for. I just personally don't have a lot of success with a Huddleston in my waters. I'm not sure why. We don't have trout here, so I guess that could be it, but those aren't that awful different, just a little bit more green. And I've got some Huddlestons that aren't trout colored, and I still can't seem to catch fish on them. Another great one, like a Citizen. These guys work great for that. They don't have quite as solid of a body roll for that cold water, that really slow retrieve, but they do have a pretty wild kick on the back. So something like this works a lot better whenever the water is getting a little bit warmer than whenever I'm liking to throw these, but they still can work. Another one that works pretty well for this is these Dream Smashers. They've kind of got a Huddleston type wedge tail. You can catch some fish doing it, but again, I just don't like them quite as well as the Magdraft. If you've tried a Magdraft and you didn't catch any fish on it or you didn't get any bites, it's probably because you were either fishing it too fast, you were too scared to get it close enough to the cover that you needed to be fishing, you were throwing it in the wrong conditions, like it's just not that effective of a bait in like the dead of summer, in my opinion, or you gave up too quick. And that's honestly the biggest one that I see people struggle with is they're like, yeah, I tried it. You fished it for 10 minutes, then you went back to the jerkbait. This isn't a magic bait, it's a commitment bait. But when you stick with it, the quality of fish and the number of fish go way up. And I'm speaking from experience, especially at that time of year, that late March, early April, something like this can catch you a lot of fish and a lot of really, really big ones. If this helped you, hit that like button. It really helps out the channel. Let me know in the comments what swim baits you would like to see me break down next. And if you want more kayak fishing breakdowns like this, make sure you subscribe to the channel. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see y'all next time.